In today's episode, we're going to be talking about how I find private lenders. So let's face it, the number one skill you'll ever learn is how to find a bargain property. But right after that skill becomes the art of funding those properties. Believe me when I tell you, private money changes everything. Imagine being able to buy any deal you find, whenever you find it, and as many as you can find. That's what private money will do for you. So today, we're talking about my private lenders. Who are these private lenders? Where do I find them? And what motivates these private lenders? All that coming up right now. So who are my private lenders? My private lenders are over the age of 50, predominantly. Not all the time, but predominantly they're over the age 50. They're not wealthy. In fact, they have a long ways to go before they're financially free. So they're still working on their retirement. They're still focused on that. They want to find ways to grow their idle money, the money that sits in the bank that they promised not to touch. My private lenders are split about 50-50, men and women. They all want to start small. That is to say, they don't want to put in everything they have right off the bat. They want to test the waters. They want to dip their little finger in. They want to do one of the smallest deals I have. They just want to see what it's like to work with me on a small scale. In the very beginning, $200,000 or $300,000 would be big for them. So I'm trying to start out with one deal, $50,000, $70,000, $80,000, the smallest amount I can, just to get them in the fold, get them experienced with the paperwork and the process, and get them comfortable and prove to them that their payments are going to come on the first of every month like clockwork. I've started to recognize a phenomena about almost all my investors. It's centered around 3-month increments. They'll get in a small deal and I'll owe them some money every month. And on the third month that I make my payment on time, I get a phone call. What can I do with a little more money? Now I'm making 2 payments for the next month 4, 5, and 6. But by the time I get to month 6, I get another phone call. What can you do with a little more money? And somewhere between month 6, 9, and 12, the big phone call comes. As long as you're on time and those payments, all the payments you owe them, keep coming on time, about month 9 or month 12, you're going to get a phone call and they're going to drop the mother load on you. How much can you do with $700,000? I'm ready to go all in. I got another $500,000. You know, I talked to my uncle. He's interested too. We've got $1.5 million. That's when it happens, around month 9 or month 12. It's almost uncanny how it falls in 3-month increments almost every time. And my students around the nation even confirm. All the time they're calling me, hey, it's happening just like you said. In 3 months they gave me a little more. In 6 months they gave me a little more. And then in 12 months, man, they dumped $1 million on me. I'm hearing it from all over the nation. So there's something to it. Don't know what it is, but there's something. A lot of it has to do with how comfortable people get with you. In my investment career, and if you're out there listening and you have idle money and you want to consider me, let me throw my hat in the ring. I have lots of private lenders, about $26 million worth. And right before COVID, I had it all out on the streets and I was making payments every month on $26 million to my probably about 55, 56 investors, all of which have been with me for years upon years, some of them decades, some of them 2 decades, one of them almost 3 decades, and it's not a family member. It's a complete, out of the family tree person. So let me tell you a little story about Mary. Mary was with me for 10 or 15 years when she decided she wanted to go in bigger, but she didn't have any more money. She had everything she had with me. It was nothing to laugh at, but she wanted to do more. She had a house that was free and clear. And without even consulting me, or anyone else for that matter, she went off to the local credit union and did a cash out refi on her house and cashed out $150,000 at 1.87% interest on a 15-year note. Then she walked that $150,000 over to my office and said, can you loan this out to me? I have to pay 1.87%. You can pay me more than that, right? And of course we agreed on a number. I think we agreed on 8%. So she's making over 6% on the arbitrage between 1.87 and 8% on her money. Smart lady, business lady to the max, and wanted to do more, and she went and got a home equity loan and loaned it to me at a much higher rate than what she had to pay. Increased. What she did was she took all the money from all her payments that I was paying her, since she didn't need them to live on, and she just applied them all to that 15-year loan, and she was done in about 6 years. Then she went and did it again. She kept doing the same thing over and over again. Now, I'm not suggesting anyone do that, but I'm just telling you, as your private lenders get comfortable with you, they'll do more and more and more, and maybe even they start doing things like Mary and going out and getting a home equity loan. So where do I find these private lenders? Let me tell you, there's no one way, there's no one place, there's no way to identify. You have to look at every single person who crosses your path as a potential private lender. And you need to get them to have a conversation about that. And how you do that, you can find out exactly how I ease my way into conversations. Actually, I make other people open up the conversation that I want to talk about. And there's an art to doing that. Use a little bit of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and I can get people to ask me the question I want them to ask me, so that the idea of this conversation about them investing with me is not my idea, it's their idea. And because it's their idea, it's a whole different conversation. So believe me, check out 1000houses.com, go over to the Private Money Changes Everything course, and let me give you a little example of what it's about and how it works. It is a tremendous asset. And if all you do this year is learn how to talk to people in the hopes that they'll raise their hand and say they want to work with you, it'll change your life. Now, before we get to the segment where I talk about what motivates my private lenders, let's talk about how much you like this and how much you want to share this YouTube channel. So please take note of that like button and that share button. Go ahead and mash on them a few times. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe right now. So what motivates my private lenders? It's real simple, it's obvious, and it's plain as day. My private lenders are sick and tired of gambling in the stock market. And they're sick and tired of 1% or less CD rates being offered by their banks. It's laughable, it's ridiculous. So in both cases, my private lender is trying to find a place to go, but they don't know where to go to get a decent return with a limited amount of risk. And that's what you and I can offer them. We can offer them a limited amount of risk by giving them a first lien on a piece of property that's worth a whole lot more than what they're loaning us. You know, if you got a $100,000 piece of property and you're only asking for $60,000 in the first lien position, that's a low risk environment to be in. They ought to be able to be made whole if you don't pay as agreed. They ought to be able to get the house and at least get their investment back. If not, hit a home run. When it comes to the stock market, my people are scared to death of the stock market. Yeah, it's been performing well, but they don't know when it's going to break. And the whole trick to the stock market is staying in while it's good and getting out right before it busts. And no one knows when it's going to bust. So essentially, my private lenders see themselves as gambling. And here's the kicker. They're too old to start over again. Many of my private lenders are in their late 50s, in their mid 60s, in their early 70s, or even their early 80s. They can't afford to take a hit and come back anymore. This is the last hurrah for them. They're petrified of losing what little they have. And so, here we are, offering something that's consistent and has collateral in the form of real, tangible, real property. The truth of the matter is, there's a ton of people out there that would love to hear this idea and loan you their money. They just don't know you and I exist. It's our job to help them find us. We have to raise our hands high, and we have to present ourselves often. Because believe me, there is a lot of people out there. If you would have asked little old Mitch Stephen 10 years ago, do you think you'll ever have $26 million worth of private money? I'd have thought you were crazy. Now, it's like I almost have too much money. I have to say, stop. I can't handle any more money right now. I can't spend it fast enough. And get this, just because you have a lot of money available to you doesn't mean you run out and start making crappy deals. You have to stay with the underwriting that made you successful. That means if I can find 100 houses this year with that underwriting criteria, then I buy 100. If I can only buy 80 at that underwriting criteria that makes me successful, then I can only buy 80. You just don't change your criteria because you have more money. That's a losing proposition. And it's not good for your lenders. So believe me, there is a world of money out there waiting for you to show up with a good plan. And this is a good plan. A lot of what I do to attain private money from private individuals is to train those individuals how they can roll over their retirement plans into self-directed retirement plans with checkbook control, where they decide how they're going to invest their money, when they decide what rate of return they're going to get, when they decide when they're going to get in and when they're going to get out, and quit leaving it to the yahoos on Wall Street that don't even know their name. So I want you to go to taxfreefuture.com, and I want you to get interested and involved in them and watch those 37 little video vignettes. I also want to give you an ebook by clicking on this link right here. Just click on the link, or you can go to 1000houses.com/free-stuff and scroll up and down the homepage until you see the free offer for the taxfreefuture.com ebook. All right? That's what I want to tell you today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and follow me to the next episode because it's just around the corner.